What is up, everybody? It's Madlibs, and before you watch any further, I just want you guys to know that this is a part 2, and you kind of need the context from the first one to understand this one, so I'm going to put a card up there if you guys haven't seen it yet, but if you're just going to ignore me, then that's fine. Just keep watching while I tell you about my terrible, horrible, no good, very bad, awful OC. Let's get started. And you guys might be thinking, oh, that's it for the backstory. Nope, because the thing is that when Joseph finds Butch, he's already dead, and his eye was already missing, and he had to be somebody before he died, right? So what did I, 12-year-old Libby, do with this fountain of untapped potential that definitely needed to be messed with and shouldn't just be left the fuck alone? Well, I made him childhood friends with 2 of the main villains, of course. That's right. The other big reveal, besides him being a psycho, was that before he died, he was best friends with WPC's biggest enemy. This guy. His name was Randy. Him and Randy were like best friends. They just had a real bromance going on. Well, less of a bromance and more of a big and little brother situation since, Butch was younger than him. And Randy, since he was mostly cyborg, people were scared of him, but not Butch. Butch loved him with all of his heart. And then one day, they're walking around, and a car shows up. And Butch pushes Randy out of the way, and he gets hit by the car, and the car flips over like 30 fucking times. And then the glass, it went right into his eyeball. For some reason, I don't know how that happens, but anyway, it flips over, and then Randy, he runs over, and he sees his best friend, dying, and he tries to save him, but he can't. And then Randy decides to become a complete terrorist. That's what happens. Basically, it's Butch's fault that Randy is on the other side, and not with WPC anymore. That's pretty much it. Also, Butch's real name before he died was Andrew, which makes the name Butch even weirder because that means he picked it himself. He rebranded himself as Butch on purpose, and I never made a story for that. I never made, a naming himself story after that. He was just like, okay, my name is Butch now, and everybody was like, sure, that's your name. Also, another thing I never really established was how Randy and Butch knew each other, because they were, if I remember, they were, 4 years apart, so I don't know how they met. They just kind of knew each other. Now, you guys might be thinking, I just stopped there. Nope! He also knew the other evil guy. He knew this guy, Shadow, aka Rose's super evil older brother. He knew him before he was all evil, which means he also knew Rose. So, that's it, really. There wasn't any kind of, dramatic thing that happened with him. They just kind of knew each other and they were friends. Look, man, I just wanted some big reveals, okay? I wanted some plot twists. I wanted some what moments. That's all I wanted. I didn't think about connecting it to the story. I didn't think about it making any sense. I just thought about, hey, it would be crazy if he knew both of these guys, and if 2 of these spooky villains actually knew each other. Which is really weird because in the story, these 2 guys meet each other again, and they don't say anything. They don't acknowledge that they know each other, not even oh, what happened to you, or that guy, I hate that guy because of this and this. After good old Andrew over here died, they all just kind of went their separate ways, I guess. I don't know, man. Now I know you might be thinking, Libby, you stopped there, right? No, I didn't, because I had a whole other strain of story for this guy. That's right, he doesn't just have multiple backstories, he has multiple current stories. Now, this new version of his, regular story is actually the last one I ended on, the one I was gonna stick with, or something. Basically, it's the one that brings on his end. This is the thing that closes the case. It closes the story. And don't worry, it's not as complicated as all the other backstories, but it is just as stupid. It's actually worse, I think. So basically, he's at the point where he's already joined WPC, he's already got Mark and Rose as his partners, and, everything's just going pretty good for this guy. But he's got a dark secret. He has a room in his apartment where he just fucks shit up. There's a bunch of punching bags that have been sliced open, there's a bunch of, dolls that have been stabbed, just anything weird that I could think of, I threw it in. And, somebody gets their hands on it that shouldn't. This guy right here, this spooky guy that he actually apparently knew, even though when they meet, they don't acknowledge that they know each other. even though they should be able to recognize each other because it hasn't been that long. It's only been like maybe a few years, and they really haven't changed at all. But anyway, this guy right here is supposed to be some Hannibal level manipulator, right? So he goes to Butch and he's like, oh, I've seen your spooky room over there. It's really cool. And he's like, oh, really? You think it's cool? And he's like, yeah, I'm impressed. I mean, I murder people, but I don't murder people as good as you do. And he's like, oh, you really mean that? And he's like, yeah, you should do that more. You should murder more people. So he basically convinces Butch to go completely rogue, you know, and then the whole thing with Joseph happens where he reveals himself, and then this guy breaks him out of jail, and then he's like, hey, you should join me and do stuff for me. And he's like, okay, because at this point, honestly, Butch is starting to have a huge man crush on this man. Not even a man crush, just a regular crush. He just wants this guy real bad. So they do all that stuff, but then he betrays him. Somehow, I never really figured out how he betrays him, but basically, you know, he uses him. He's just like, hey, do all this stuff that I can't do so that I can do more mischievous things. And then he's like, okay, I don't really have a use for you anymore. I'm going to leave you for the police. Bye. So he gets taken to jail. And then while he's in jail, this dude isn't evil anymore. He stops being possessed by a demon, which is exactly what was going on. That's why he was evil. And he gets his life back on track, you know? He finds his ex-wife and his secret son that he didn't know about. And everything's good until Butch breaks out of jail and hunts him down. And now Butch is so crazy that he doesn't even realize that this guy isn't evil anymore. All he sees is the same evil dude that broke his heart. So he goes over and he tries to murder him. You know, he goes after his family in, just a spooky scene, breaks into their house. He almost kills him, almost kills his wife, but then he hurts their son, and this dude's wife just is not having it. So she goes nuts, and she like shoots him, and she pushes him out a window, and they're on like the 3rd story, and he falls, and he breaks his back. Just his back, and nothing else. And because he broke his back, he ended up in a wheelchair, all fucked up, and back in jail again in the same wheelchair. At least that was the first version of that story. Yep. I made multiple versions for that one too. But don't worry, it's actually not that different than the first one. The only difference in the second one is that they don't live on the 3rd floor, they live in like an actual house. And instead of the wife fighting him, you know, good old not evil anymore, Shadow is the one fighting him. They like end up in the backyard or something. And then this guy right here, you know, not evil Shadow, goes and gets a fucking sledgehammer. I don't know where he gets a sledgehammer, but he gets it, and he just fucking slams that shit right into Butch's back, like, over and over and over again, and then Butch, like, tries to stand up, and he can't move his legs, and he's freaking out, because, you know, you'd freak out if you couldn't move your legs. Then this guy, you know, again, not evil Shadow, is just like, that's what happens when you mess with me. Don't ever fucking try me again. Like, all evil. And then he hears his wife coming around the house to check on both of them and help out, so he, like, pretends to be unconscious. And she, you know, goes and saves him. And everybody just thinks that, like, Butch broke his back by falling out like a not even 1-story window? What, were they just like, oh yes, this man must have fallen out a window and landed on a very big sharp rock multiple times, and that's why his back is broken? Because, you know, no one would be able to tell if your back was fucking destroyed by a sledgehammer, like, if you survived that, first of all. The only reason I made that was so that you could be like, oh, maybe this guy is actually evil. Maybe he was evil the whole time and he's still kind of a bad guy. I don't know. I just wanted another what moment. It was a lot. It was too much. And then he just kind of rots in jail for the rest of his life, I guess, because I didn't do anything with him after that. He just kind of, just like, you know, the other evil person that we talked about last time, he's just in jail and that's the end of the story. I was going to do something with him in the future, like in the next generation thing. I had planned for this comic where it was about all the characters from this comic's children, and in that one, Shadow was supposed to turn into 2 people, and they gave him robo-legs. But in terms of just regular Code Red, he's never seen again. By the way, I forgot to mention this in the last episode, but one of my favorite things about this character is that back in middle school when I made him, one of my friends actually had a crush on him, which back then I thought was kind of cool. And I mean, to this day, I still think that's kind of cool because it means that I have, or at least had, the ability to make characters that people would have crushes on. But besides all that, it's it's kind of ridiculous when you, like, know the character that he is, because not only is he a terrible person, like, in the world of Code Red, but as a character, like, his backstory, his personality, everything is so terrible, but she still liked him. And I mean, I guess I can't blame her, because she didn't really like him for his personality or any of that. She just liked him because she thought he was cute. I swear, when she told me about it, it was just the funniest thing, because how it happened was we were drawing each other's characters, like, at this point, because she's an artist too, and we were, like, talking about our stories to each other, drawing each other's characters, all that stuff. And she comes up to me in, like, a passing period, and she's just like, oh, hey, Olivia, what's up? And we were, like, talking, and she just says, oh, yeah, when I was in class right now, I drew Butch. She didn't have a drawing in her hand, so she wasn't, like, gonna show me like we usually did with each other. She was just like, oh, yeah, I drew him in class, and, I don't know why, but when I draw him, he's kind of hot. And I didn't think this was, like, strange in the slightest. I was very flattered. And so what I kept doing was, like, I kept drawing pictures of him for her, or, like, drawing pictures of him and her together and sending them to her and be like, ooh, hey, look at this, it's you with Butch. And she was like, she'd get all excited about it. I've actually done that to many of my friends who have had crushes on characters that I've made, and by many, I mean 2, because there was only 2, as far as I know. I just remembered something that she said when we were, like, texting and talking about it, and it was, I need a body pillow of this man. And I know that, like, we were 12, and it was just us being all weird and hormonal, but, like, I still think it was pretty funny. If you ever watch this, friend whose name I'm not gonna mention, I hope you're not mad that I've, like, brought this up, but, like, that was pretty funny, like, you gotta admit. And now that story's over, I can show you guys this, the new and improved Butch. I'm renaming him Bruce, by the way, because I don't want to say Butch anymore. So, I made Bruce, like, the techie fix-em-up guy of the secret agency, who's, like, you know, kind of reserved and quiet and just kind of stays in his garage with all his stuff and he fixes things. And as you can see, he's fixing Mark's arm cannon right there. So they're still working together and all that good stuff. I also changed up his outfit a lot because I feel like a suit, like a full-on suit, was just way too stuffy for this kind of thing, especially since I'm changing his personality to be more the fix-it guy. You can't really fix a bunch of stuff in a suit, you know? And I also changed the whole missing eye type thing. He doesn't have a missing eye anymore. That's just a nice little gadget that he can use to fix stuff. I actually really like this redesign that I did. It's so different, but it works way better. And now that I've put a little more thought into it, other than edgy, psycho, nerd man, it actually looks like he has a character, and by looking at this, I know he has a real personality. But, you know what I don't know about him? His backstory, because I didn't come up with anything that far. So maybe you guys can help me out with that. What's this guy's backstory? What's his regular story? Is he a crazy person? Is it just as dumb as the one I made up? I don't know, because this video's not out yet. And, yeah, that's it. God, this episode is very long. I don't know if that's because of my mistakes or if because it's genuinely long. I might have to split it up into 2 parts. You'll find out whether or not I did that by the time this episode is over. And, yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and definitely don't forget to subscribe and join the madness. See ya!